Hello and welcome. Good morning. I am here for a live show of You're the Voice with no other than the courageous, the amazing Keonne Rodriguez. Hey, Keonne.
Hello, thank you for having me, Efrat.
Thank you so much for taking the time and being with me. What I was texting is the link to this live to a group of people that can hopefully push it out. So if you guys are watching us, whether you're on X, on YouTube, or on Rumble, and thank you, Rumble, for hosting us live, please take the link and share it in all your social media channels, in all your WhatsApp, Signal, Telegram group, wherever you are, so that people can join us and watch this live with Keonne. This is a very special live for me, a special opportunity to speak with you, Keonne. And I want to apologize in advance if I'm making you repeat a lot of the things you've been saying over the past few weeks, because you've been talking a lot. And thank you so much for, having the patience to go over this again and again with us. I know it's not easy, especially in light of the fact that in 3 days you are going to prison, and you have, I am sure, a lot of stuff to do, family, health, arrangements, logistics, and yet what you're doing most of the day is speaking to people like us and explaining to us why this is something that we should all pay attention to. So first of all, huge thank you for your time and your attention and doing this. And secondly, I'm with you. How are you doing?
It's right now, it's primarily trying to keep emotion out of it and taking care of all the logistical things that you mentioned, right? So things as simple as making sure healthcare is taken care of and dental care is taken care of, to making sure that my wife knows how to restart the router and knows how to fix the printer when it doesn't work. Things that I normally would do that she's going to now have to do. So I'm keeping emotion out of it and really focused on making the transition as seamless for her as possible. But thank you for having me on the show. I don't mind repeating myself. It does. I hope I don't get wear out my welcome. But the way I look at it is that if I go in to prison on Friday, I will sit there in the cell knowing that I did everything I could. I
Yeah.
talked to everyone I could, and I won't be sitting there wondering, oh, maybe I should have done this or that. I went through every door that opened, and I think that's all that I can do.
I think that's a very healthy approach, because I'm sure it can be mentally draining to be in the position that you are right now. I just want to start by saying to our audience, if you guys don't know, if you're tuning in live and you don't know what we are here for and what we're going to talk about, just to take you back a little bit. So Keonne Rodriguez is an open source developer and privacy pioneer. He's an American small business owner, essentially, who is sadly turning into a federal inmate. And he's about to report to jail this Friday in 3 days to begin a 5-year sentence, unless President Trump is able to step in and offer a presidential pardon, which is something that a lot of people in the community have been calling for. So hopefully he will hear our message. And just before we start with my questions, there is a link that I want you guys to go to. It is billandkeonne.org. We will put that link in the notes as well. And that link has 2 things. One is a petition that is very important for you to sign on in case you haven't. And 2 is a way to support financially this campaign. So please go to billandkeonne.org and you can help already. So I'm saying this in the beginning. I'll say it again in the end. But this is super important. So Bill and Keonne are the founders of Samourai Wallet. And Samourai Wallet is a Bitcoin wallet that is supposed to help you preserve your privacy as you transact with what's yours, your money. And they have been prosecuted and put as an example for others to see. And we need to kind of understand what's going on here. We'll start with those of you who know, who have been following the case. You may have seen that yesterday was a big day. And I want to give a shout out to the reporter, Sander Lutz, who had asked President Trump yesterday at a press conference in the White House if he had heard about the Samourai case. And Trump said that, yes, he heard about it. He didn't go too deep into it, but he has heard about it. And he asked Sander in return, do you think I should pardon them? From your question, it sounds like you think I should. And I think that was a really positive sign. First of all, to see that he knows the case, he has heard about it. And secondly, that he's kind of interested. I don't think he would have taken the question if it was something that was not on his agenda. So I think that this is a very positive thing. What do you make of it, Keonne?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I've seen a lot of question and answers with President Trump. And if he doesn't want to speak about something, if he doesn't really care about something, he moves on very quickly. He has no problem shutting a reporter down. The fact that he spent 37 seconds, I think I timed it, talking about this, responding to this question, I think was very positive. And it's something I've always said is, look, we don't have a lot of money. We don't have a lot of influence. We don't have a lot of power. So it's difficult to get the president's attention. It's difficult for just two everyday people to have the president know about you. So the fact that Sander Lutz asked the question, I think, was huge. And then the fact that the president said he had heard about us and he directed the attorney general to look into it further is all extremely positive. I think if the president does look into this case, we have a very good shot of being pardoned because he's been prosecuted by the SDNY. He's been gone after by a Biden administration weaponized Department of Justice. He knows what it's like. He knows what they do, and he would see a lot of parallels in our case and his cases. So I think the chances are good if we could get his attention. And yesterday we got his attention. So, who knows what the future will bring. We're cautiously optimistic, though.
Yeah, I'm with you. Definitely positive, and we need to keep pushing so that they keep looking at this case. And I'm going to pause on where we go next for a second and just take you back so that the audience knows a little bit more about the case itself. So let's start with the Samourai Wallet itself, the product. What problems drove you to create a non-custodial privacy-first Bitcoin wallet to begin with? And did it evolve as the ecosystem started growing?
Yeah, so I mean, what drove us to create Samourai Wallet actually starts several years in the past. So we started Samourai Wallet in 2015, but both Bill and me got involved in Bitcoin in 2012, and we were all about it. We saw it as a censorship-resistant form of electronic cash, and that's what everything, our whole motivation was towards. By 2015, however, the culture had somewhat shifted in Bitcoin. It became more about like an investment and an asset and a way to get rich. All of that ended up being true. It was a way to get rich for some people, but for us, it wasn't about that still. It was still about censorship resistance and permissionless, non-intermediary form of cash for the electronic age. So we decided that around then in 2015 that we would build software, a wallet in particular, that prioritized our vision of Bitcoin. And even if no one else wanted to use it, we wanted to use it and we wanted to make it for ourselves. So we did. We laid out the foundation very early on of what we saw Samourai Wallet becoming, and the types of technology we would create to improve the default privacy proposition of Bitcoin. Bitcoin is open. It's a ledger that anyone can look at. And if your whole goal is censorship resistance, that's not really good, because something that isn't private does not have a good censorship resistance properties. So they work together. So we decided to build software that was non-custodial, meaning we never took custody of anyone's Bitcoin. We didn't want to be an exchange. We didn't want to be a bank. We wanted to be just to build software that let individuals hold and keep control of their Bitcoin and use it in a way that's very similar to cash, physical cash that you put in your pocket. And it didn't really change. You asked if it evolved as the ecosystem evolved. I would say no, it didn't. We didn't let the whims and of the ecosystem and what people prioritize change what we were doing. We had a very specific goal in mind, and that was to turn Bitcoin into physical cash, but electronically. And we focus on that entirely.
You're the Voice is brought to you by Trezor, the original Bitcoin hardware wallet company pioneering the development of self-custody for crypto assets since 2013, empowering individuals with an open-source device, enabling beginners and experts to easily and securely hold their coins. I find my Trezor super easy to use and recommend it to my friends and family. Enjoy my 5% discount on Trezor products by clicking the link in the show notes and using the code FLAT. I want to introduce you to Abundant Minds because they take a very different approach to Bitcoin mining. Most people buy Bitcoin, but the smart ones mine it straight into self-custody. With Abundant Minds, you can do it without giving up your privacy. Abundant Minds was founded by Bo and Christine Marie Turner, a couple who lost more than $500,000 to providers making empty promises. Instead of walking away, they built a company that raises the industry standard and puts client first, and that's why I like them. With Abundant Minds, you own your machines. They never touch your Bitcoin, never skim a revenue share, and you choose your own mining pool. Their customer care is unusual. Clients speak to a real person for self-custody education, privacy consulting, and even visiting their site. They serve clients from around the world, but US investors specifically enjoy a big tax benefit and 100% bonus depreciation. This is more than just mining Bitcoin. It's about freedom, privacy, and purpose. You can book a free strategy call, see how it works, and mine some of your first Bitcoin for free with a special offer for my audience. Learn more on abundantminds.com/efrat. Okay, and as you speak, the thing that comes into my head is that great sentence, be the change you want to see in the world. So you guys really wanted to implement the Satoshi's white paper in the way that you see that will be beneficial for people. You tried to do something positive. You even did it with legal advice, I believe, to make sure you're not passing any laws, you're not breaking any laws, and yet you were prosecuted. So were there specific features in Samourai that made it, quote unquote, a good candidate for the government to attack? Samourai specifically, and why?
Yeah, absolutely. There were the main headline feature that the government really took issue with was something that we called Whirlpool. And what Whirlpool was is it's called a coin join. It's a collaborative transaction where you and a bunch of your friends, or not even friends, people you don't even know, all get together and compose a transaction together. They're not sending it out anywhere. They're sending from one address they control in their wallet to another address they control in your wallet. But because there's so many people participating in this transaction, when a third party looks at the transaction on the public blockchain, it's difficult to understand what's going on. There's too many combinations of what could be happening. And the point of this is to essentially disassociate the history of one Bitcoin in the past from what it's doing in the future. Yeah. Right? So imagine this. Imagine you go to an ATM, your bank's ATM, and you take out $100 in cash. The bank knows you had $100.
Yep.
The bank knows you took out $100, but they don't know what you do with the $100 afterwards. Yep. It's none of their business. Their relationship with you has ended at that point when you took the money out. Absolutely. That's what Whirlpool did. That's all it did. It didn't do anything more than that. Then stop it from the bank from seeing what you did with your cash once you took it out of the ATM. So the government really did not like this feature. And they really didn't like that we figured out a way to do this without taking custody, right? Because this technology has existed since Bitcoin was invented, but you always had to give up custody to a trusted third party to do it for you. It was called mixing, right? So if I wanted to mix, I would send my Bitcoin to the mixer, and then the mixer would send Bitcoin back to me. And it achieved the same type of solution, right? The past is separated from the future,
Yep.
but you gave up custody. We figured out a way to do it so that you never gave up custody. You always were in control of your Bitcoin, thus keeping us on the right side of the law, right? Because the law is about custody. And the government really hated that. They hated that we figured out a way to do this, keeping on the right side of the law, that they had to take us out. And they did.
So the analogy for this would be just like the example you gave before, to make cash transactions illegal and like prosecute now everyone that handles cash, right?
And that's not crazy. I mean, for years they've had a war on cash. The government hates cash.
Yes.
They want every transaction to be trackable and traced. They want to know everything that you're doing with your finances. And cash, this historic way that we obtain some form of financial privacy,
Yep.
is a thorn in their sides. Now, they can't just get rid of cash so easily, right? They have to do a bunch of little campaigns and push you onto payment rails and networks that are surveilled. But
Yep.
with Bitcoin, they could do it a little bit easier, right? They can see into Bitcoin without using a tool like we created. Bitcoin is open and public, and the government is absolutely surveilling it. With the tool that we created that threw up a roadblock to that surveillance, just made it a little bit more difficult, just made it a little bit more like cash. They were really, really mad about that.
I don't know if you had a chance to see yesterday. I saw Paul Atkins, the head of the SEC, speaking for 4 minutes about the new, truly digital money era that we are stepping into, and how the blockchain is completely exposed and you can surveil everything, and governments are already doing that, and there are companies doing that, and that we do need to balance the privacy and anonymity to a certain extent. And he goes on to give examples of why, for example, hedge funds or financial institutions would not benefit from having complete transparency over the blockchain. And, you know, he gives the example to those institutions that may, you know, the penny will drop for them when he says that, but really, you know, he didn't give the example of the retail, of the simple pleb citizen out there, but he nailed it, because this is exactly it. And we need to crack that balance between the transparency and the censorship resistance to the privacy and anonymity. And I think he gets it. Like I watched the whole 4 minutes, and I think he really gets it, and other people in the administration as well. And I think it's so important to start raising those issues and put more highlight on them, because this is going to be the be all and end all of the transitory phase from the fiat monetary system that we're on to a digital monetary system, whether it's Bitcoin, CBDC, stable coins, or any other instrument. We have to deal with those topics, with those issues. What do you think?
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. And I think that we have, in the fiat system as it exists today, there is a level of financial privacy that everyone enjoys. For example, if I go to Starbucks and I pay with my Visa card, the cashier doesn't know what my balance is. The cashier doesn't know what I spent last week or what I'm going to spend in the future, right? They just take the money and that's the end of it. That's not how it works with Bitcoin. Bitcoin, if I pay the cashier, that cashier could look at my past transactions. That cashier can figure out what my net worth is and what I'm going to spend in the future. That's something that no one would accept. That's outrageous and crazy.
Yeah.
You know, in the legacy fiat system, if my bank inadvertently hands out my data to a third party without my permission, that's a major privacy violation. They
Oh
can be
yeah.
sued for that, and they can be prosecuted for that. So we have financial privacy laws in the United States and around the world that we all are used to and take advantage of. We should at least have that same basic financial privacy on cryptocurrency, on Bitcoin. And the SEC commissioner was absolutely right. He was focused on institutions and hedge funds and all this, but all that's very true. You can't run a business if your books are completely open,
Yep.
right? And your competitors can see everything you're doing. That's insane. But
Yep.
it's the same for retail. We can't have that at the retail level either. So it's great to hear the SEC. I think Trump has done incredible work especially on the SEC side, because during Biden's administration, the SEC was a nightmare. Right? They weren't telling people what they were supposed to be doing. People were going to them and saying, "Hey, we need guidance," and they were ignoring them. And then they not even just ignoring, then they were prosecuting them. So Trump has done an amazing work on ending the war on crypto on the SEC side of things, on the securities and investment side of things. And unfortunately, on the DOJ side of things, it's moved a lot slower. The wheels of justice move slow. We all know that. But I think overall, President Trump is making good on his promise to end the war on crypto. And I think now that our chapter is out of the courts, out of the Department of Justice, and he really has the ability to make things right by granting a pardon, it becomes more possible. And I think he will make things right, because I think he truly does want the United States to be the crypto capital of the world. And you can't have the crypto capital of the world if you keep putting your software developers into prison. Right? It's not just me. It's Roman Storm. It's Ian Freeman. It's Roman Sterlingoff. All of these people are being unfairly prosecuted or unfairly incarcerated, and they're software developers, they're builders, they're not a financial institution. And the only way to bring innovation back, or to keep innovation here in the United States, is to make it a safe place to write code, distribute code, without anything to do with crime, right? What we did has nothing to do with crime. The government said we built code that criminals could use, and therefore we were guilty of what those criminals did. That's an insane proposition, and it's going to chill the entire industry if they get away with it.
In a world hypnotized and sleepwalking towards totalitarian control and digital enforcement, awakened voices rise to inspire change and radiate hope. In December 2024, I had the honor of hosting Professor Matthias Desmet at a conference I produced called New Totalitarian Order. This masterclass is now recorded and available to watch. The conference explores the psychology behind global mass processes, offering a behind-the-scenes look at science, economics, and human potential. It addresses challenging global agendas, mass formation, transhumanism, consciousness, societal change, and the path to transformation. Click the link in the show notes to access 3.5 hours of exclusive presentations, in-depth content, and my fireside chat with Professor Desmet. Use my code EFRAT for 10% off. I hope you find great value in it. So let's hone in on that for a second. Correct me if I'm wrong, but what actually is absurdly happening here in this case is that the DOJ decided that software providers are financial institutions, and they're charging you for treating software as money transmission, where you don't even have custody of any money. And
Right.
still they're saying that you are a money transmitter. So hence they're trying to enforce KYC AML laws on you, but you don't even have any funds in your custody. Can you explain this absurdity?
Well, I can explain it, but I can't really explain it because it's absurd. It makes no sense.
You can't make it logical. You can't make it make sense.
I can't make it logical, right? This is the first time they've come up with this novel theory that somehow a software developer who has put out code that allows individual users to manage their Bitcoin, manage their transmit on their own behalf, somehow the builders of that technology are responsible, right, for what they do. The builders of that technology are a financial institution like a bank like Western Union, like Coinbase. That makes no sense, right? And it's not only doesn't make sense to us lay people, it doesn't make sense to the regulator in charge of money laundering and money transmission. The regulator in charge
Vincent?
is FinCEN, the Financial Crime Enforcement Network.
Okay.
And in 2013, FinCEN had very common sense guidance. They said in
Yep.
order to be a money transmitter, you have to take custody of the money, right? How can you transmit something you don't have? You need to have custody of it. 2019, they said it again. They wrote the guidance, updated it, and even said in 2019, said if you're an anonymity service provider or an anonymity software provider and you don't take custody of customer funds, you are not a money transmitter.
Right. Loud and clear.
Loud and clear. And we built Samourai using this guidance. We understood this guidance. Everyone in the industry understood this guidance to say no custody, no money transmitter. No money transmitter, no obligation to do KYC or AML. That's an obligation for banks and exchanges and money transmitters. It's pretty straightforward stuff. In 2024, the government changed how they view money transmission. And then they said, no longer do you need to have custody and control, but if you write software that allows people to send their own money, that's money transmission. And you're responsible for what they do. And you're responsible for doing KYC and AML on them. It makes no sense. They don't care, though. They even, I don't know if you know
Did they
this.
hide this information?
They did.
The DOJ.
Yeah, they did. So they actually, before indicting us, 6 months before indicting us, they went to FinCEN and they asked FinCEN about Samourai Wallet.
Yeah.
And and FinCEN said to them, they don't take custody, so they're not a money transmitter. They hid that. They indicted us anyway. One of the charges being not getting the license to be a money transmitter, even though the regulator in charge of giving the license had just told them that we didn't need a license. Then they hid that information from us for over a year. We found out over a year later that FinCEN had said that. It's unbelievable. If that doesn't tell you everything about this prosecution, I don't know what will. And I think,
Is it
again, when the
legal
president
not to
sees
expose
that,
this information to you during a
no, it's
trial?
not.
It's not.
No, it's not. It's called a Brady violation. The government
Brady
is,
violation. Okay.
yeah, the government is required to hand over to a defendant all evidence, whether it's good evidence or bad evidence. And we call good evidence for a defendant exculpatory evidence, right? This is evidence that actually shows weakness in the government's case. The Supreme Court has said they have to hand all of that over to us without us asking for it. That's a legal obligation the prosecutors have. And they didn't do that in this case. Not only did they not hand it over to us for over a year, we had to ask them specifically if they've ever had a conversation with FinCEN. That's the only reason they ended up handing it over to us. And we tried to try to get judicial relief. We wrote to the judge. We told the judge about this. It wasn't even in contention. It happened. The government knows it happened. They admit that it happened.
Yeah.
And the judge didn't want to hear about it. The judge dismissed the whole motion. And that was kind of the end of our remedy seeking process.
How convenient. So here's another super critical, important point that any of you that is listening to this live stream at the moment and has any ties with the current administration or with people that are connected to the president or his people, you can make that point. This is this is really acute. Like the fact that that evidence was hidden and not part of the trial, and then the judge dismissed it. I think this needs to be taken into the president's attention as well. Okay, and then I'm not good at the details, but I heard that the Biden administration's over-criminalization executive order that was signed in May 2025 and the Bianchi memos, correct me if I'm wrong, in April 25, they both discourage regulation by prosecution. In what way did the Samourai case contradict this policy or these policies?
Yeah, I mean, I've read the Blanche memo. There's no other way to read this memo than it talking explicitly about Samurai Wallet and Tornado Cash. That's what
Can you
this
say a
memo is
bit of
about.
what's in the memo?
So the memo again is basically telling all of the U.S. attorneys in the United States that from Main Justice in Washington D.C., you are no longer supposed to target software developers for the actions of their end users.
Uh-huh.
That's what it says in the in the memo. It says explicitly in the memo, uh, anonymizing software, mixers, and tumblers, as long as they don't take custody of funds, should not be targeted by the Department of Justice. That the Department of Justice should go after actual criminals who use that software, not the software developers. Again, super common sense stuff here, right? And what's amazing in my case is throughout the indictment, throughout pretrial, they never brought any criminals. They didn't go after any of the criminals that they say used my software. They went after me. They went after my partner Bill. But of all the criminals they say use the software, they didn't go after one of them. And I'm an American. I like safety. I don't like crime. I want my FBI and my Department of Justice to go after criminals, get them. So this memo from Todd Blanche was excellent. I think it was excellent for us, and it was excellent for Roman Storm in Tornado Cash. Unfortunately, the prosecutors at the Southern District of New York really do believe they are on an island, that what Washington, D.C. says, what President Trump says, what Pam Bondi says, what Todd Blanche says, doesn't impact them, doesn't affect them. The way they see it is, in 4 years, those guys are gone, and I'm still going to be here, so I'm going to do what I want. And they ignored the Blanche memo. They ignored the executive order to end this type of regulation by prosecution. They even ignored the memo from the executive order from the president on the strategic Bitcoin reserve. We had to forfeit $6 million to the government, paid in Bitcoin, and they are supposed to keep that Bitcoin and make it part of the strategic Bitcoin reserve.
No shit. Seriously?
This is an executive order by the president. Did they do that? No. They sold the Bitcoin immediately for dollars.
No way.
Yeah. They don't care what the president has to say. And that's why I've said to the president, like when I've addressed him directly through these podcasts, he has a real problem. It's not Pam Bondi. It's not Todd Blanche. It's not Jay Clayton, who he appointed to the U.S. Attorney's Office in the Southern District of New York. It's the unelected, unappointed line prosecutors who think they can just get around all of these people. They don't care what the president has to say. They don't care what their boss has to say. They think they know best, and they're going to do what they want. And it's a real problem for this administration.
You see, I'll go like one step further. Most people don't like doing that, but I do that. That's why maybe I have technical issues before I want to do live streams and things like that. But here's the thing. I don't think this is a right and left issue. I think this is the kind of deep state that people are referring to. This is like a whole other entity that is created of bureaucracy and people that are governed by some, I don't know what kind of shadow entities are governing them. And they really don't give an F about the rule of law. They don't give an F about morals and values and doing what's right and wrong. And they work in the Justice Department, yet justice is like the furthest thing away from them. I just, I think it needs to be called out. So.
Oh, you're absolutely right. And Trump called it out in his first term. He called it the swamp, drain the swamp. Right?
Right.
Swamp was just a euphemism for deep state. That's what that meant. And
yeah.
You nailed it. This is the deep state. Again, it's not the people he's appointed. It's the bureaucrats that work there, right? And they survive between administrations, right? So they've been around under Clinton, under Obama, under the first Trump, under Biden, and they're still there. And they're the ones that really are pulling on the levers. Right? They get an order from their boss, who was appointed by Trump, And all they can figure out, all they can think about is, how am I going to get around this order? How am I going to, go around what the will of the president is? And it's seriously detrimental. It's seriously detrimental to the republic, right? We can't have a justice system operate this way, because, like you just said, and it's so true, it's not left or right. It's not about justice. It's not about truth. To these line prosecutors who are driven by ideology, it's, I don't agree with with the guy, so I'm going to do what I want. I'm going to do whatever I feel like, because I'm going to have this job in 4 years' time, and Trump isn't, and Jay Clayton isn't, but I am, and that's how they mold and they shift to their will, and it's a real problem.
And you know what, Keonne? I'm not an American citizen, and I think that this is even a bigger problem. Yes, I agree with you. It's a problem for the republic, for sure. It's detrimental, but it's very international. Like, a lot of my audience listening to us now is not American or not American citizens, but this is the state of the world right now. The fact that we do have these kind of power hungry bureaucrats everywhere, like kind of drunk on their power in their positions, holding people to ransom, creating this twisted, completely convoluted reality in which we have to abide to laws that make no sense, or they break the law by this, whatever they're doing. This is detrimental for humanity, and this is a signal to what kind of low vibrational state humanity is in right now. And if people like us don't, especially you, in a few days you're going to prison, and yet you're taking the time to sit here with me and with others and explain why this is a risk, not just for the United States or for democracy, what people call democracy, which I think don't exist anymore. This is a risk to humanity's existence, to our values and our morals and our moral duty as human beings. If we don't wake up to understand how we are being governed, how we have given our power away to corrupt entities, and how we are not claiming it back, first by speaking out and second by building the world we want to see, like brave people like you and Bill and many others that are being prosecuted right now, that we are not taking the next step to understand that we have the ability to create technologies that will liberate us and that will preserve our rights as humans and our property rights, etc. This is our duty today. So I'm sorry, I'm just so upset that we have reached this situation, that you have to go to prison, that we have to do this campaign, that we have to do this live stream to kind of wake people up to understand the horror show that we live in right now. And people don't live in urgency. They don't understand the implications of a case like this. Today it's you, Keonne, and Bill in a few months, but tomorrow it's me for just using any other non-custodial service, and all of us that want to use Bitcoin or any other cryptocurrency or any other, or even cash, like down the line. It's crazy, and we really have to do something about this. I'm sorry, I went on a rant here completely.
No, you're absolutely right. I mean, you're absolutely right. People don't realize it. They don't realize how much this does affect them, and that what Bill and I built is really the tip of the spear. And if it just one example, right, for crypto is the miners. Miners
Yeah.
are an important aspect of Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies. Okay, if the developer of a wallet, that all the wallet does is arrange a transaction and sign that transaction with a private key. That's essentially all a wallet does. It's literally mathematics, right? If that's a money transmitter, then how is a miner who accepts transactions and puts them into a block and transmits the block to the network, how is that not a money transmitter? Of course, the government is going to say it is. And the government will say, look, if a wallet is a transmitter, then a miner is a transmitter. And if a miner is a transmitter, they need to do KYC and AML on every transaction that's coming into the block. They can't accept any transaction unless it's whitelisted from, an exchange that's compliant. And at that moment, they have put their hands around the neck of crypto. They have choked it out. and it's not going to be what it's supposed to be. So the implications of this case are enormous,
Enormous.
and even past crypto into cash. As we talked about earlier, they don't like cash. Cash is a problem to them, and they want to diminish the use of cash. We've seen it all over Europe. In Greece, it's illegal to spend more than 500 euros in cash. If you try to, you get reported. And that's going to happen more and more and more, because the state believes they have a right to see everything you're doing with your finances. And they've never had this right before. This is a new right they think they have. And they want to make sure you're paying your taxes. They want to make sure you're not buying anything that they don't approve of. It doesn't have to be even illegal. It can be sex, it can be fireworks, it can be religious material in a communist country. It can be anything that the government deems unlawful, and they've never had this power before, and they want it desperately, and
And
that's
once
the
they gain this power,
trajectory.
they will never give it up.
Absolutely right. Absolutely right. Once they take something, they're not giving it up. Right? It only gets worse, and that was the whole point of Bitcoin and cryptocurrency, and that's why it was so important to them to capture it and snuff it out. And we can't let them do that. We can't let them win. That's why the tools that me and Bill built were so important. And that's why it's so important that people don't look at this case and go, oh, I better not build because the government's going to come after me. That was the whole point. That's what they want you to think. That's what it's a
That's
chilling effect.
exactly the opposite than what we need. You keep building.
Exactly. That's exactly
one
right.
message that I want people to take away from this conversation. Don't let that scare you.
That's right, because that's the whole point of what they did, right? They came after us. They came after Roman, and that set the stage. Don't build in this country. Don't build privacy tools in this country. And that's the exact opposite message that we need to send. We all need to build these tools. These tools are more important now than ever. This is exactly why we need them. Keep building.
Exactly. Amen. Keonne, we see a lot of criticism and mocking about the EU and many other countries around the world, but especially the EU's and that their draconian legislation on free speech, on harsh. Oh, do we have Keonne?
I'm here. I lost my camera for some reason.
Oh, okay.
I don't know what happened there.
Ooh, that's an interesting one, but I can still hear you.
Okay, I'm sorry. I don't know.
That's okay.
I can refresh, or we can just keep talking without
No, let's
seeing
keep talking. They're not going to stop us. F them.
Yeah, that's right. Never had that happen before. That's
I
a new
told
one
you,
for
like
me.
a lot of funny things happen to me when I do things like that. So let's keep talking. Okay, so we see a lot of criticism about the EU and their draconian legislation on free speech, harsh MiCA license, and how the EU is pushing out innovation and investment from the EU zone. Isn't that exactly what is happening in the US now with this sentence? Here you are, you're back.
Yeah, that's exactly what's happening.
So can you talk a little bit about the implications of this case in terms of developing in the US, like going against what Trump wants this to be, the crypto capital of the world, whatever?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. You can't, like I said earlier, you cannot be the crypto capital of the world if you're putting your builders and developers into prison, right? So there has to be some protection that innovators in this country know they can rely on, some bedrock knowledge that they're not going to be held responsible for whatever their users end up doing. Like, imagine Signal, the creator of Signal, being held responsible because some whack job or some terrorist or somebody used Signal to plan a crime. We would never accept that. That doesn't make any sense. Or a manufacturer of firearms being held responsible because some whack job shoots up a school. Like, there's a separation, right? We know that the maker of a tool isn't responsible when someone misuses the tool. And that's just been baseline legal precedent for years. And the way the government got around that in this case was saying that we're not just a tool, we're a financial institution.
Yeah.
And as a financial institution, we have other obligations. And that's where all of this increased regulatory burden that has come out of Europe in terms of MiCA and I forgot the other name of their regulatory regime on crypto assets.
Yeah, I forgot. It's not FATF.
No, it's not. Well, they're
No,
another
Saga
problem.
Yeah, I know it's Saga.
Yeah. So when they first proposed it, um, they weren't considering self-custodial or non-custodial tools any differently than banks and exchanges. And luckily, they went back on that,
Yeah,
and and carved out an exception for software like what we built. That needs to continue. And in the U.S., there's something called the BRCA, which is a law that would basically say, very simply, that non-custodial software developers are not money transmitters. Um, that would be pretty helpful. That would be
yep,
helpful for software developers in the United States to have some knowledge that there is some protection from an overzealous and weaponized Department of Justice, because we have a pretty decent president in terms for the crypto community right
yep,
now, but we don't know what we're getting next time or the time after that. And if we don't have that certainty, if it's like a yo-yo where, oh, this president's great, but the next one starts cracking down and throwing developers in jail, you're not going to have the innovation and the security that it takes to build these tools. These tools take a lot of time, effort, and investment to build, and you need to know as a builder that you're safe for 10 years, 20 years, however long it takes, and you're not going to end up being raided by the FBI at 5 a.m. like I was. So to be the crypto capital of the world, you need some security as a developer.
exactly. And they seem to be quite busy with creating regulatory clarity for crypto in the United States. That's the number one clarity that they need to create in terms of legislation. Because if builders and developers don't know that they are protected to do what they're doing and to build, this is the 21st century small business. That's what it looks like in the digital era, in the information era. If people like you and so many like you around the United States and in other places around the world don't know that they are free and safe to do what they're doing, then we have a problem, Houston.
We have a huge problem, and it's not even asking for permission to do it. Everyone
No.
thought this is de facto. We're allowed to do this. We have certain rights as Americans, and we can build these things. And
Yeah.
that's, I think, what the worst part is, right? You believe you have these de facto rights. You believe you have the right to freedom of speech. Code is speech. You believe that the law says this, so if you follow what the law says, you're going to be fine. And
Yeah.
and that's just unfortunately not how it works, right? You think it works that way. It should work that way, but you have a weaponized Department of Justice pointing a scope at you. They're going to fire. They're going to get you no matter what. Doesn't matter what the truth is. Doesn't matter what court precedent says. If they want you, they're going to take you down and go after you. And that's what we found with us. We had an aggressive, weaponized Department of Justice who hated crypto and a president who hated crypto, and they came down on us, and not only us, but others, other builders in this way. And it's a tough thing to try to remedy and figure out, how do we stop this from happening? How do we, because the laws were the laws. We were on the right side of the law, but that didn't stop a weaponized Department of Justice coming after us. And the old saying is, the process is the punishment. And
Yeah.
that is absolutely true. Even if we had been found innocent in these crimes, I'm already still $2.5 million in debt to lawyers, $1.5 million in debt to friends who loaned me money, and we never even got to trial, right? Like, this is millions and millions of dollars that I don't have to defend myself against an adversary who has unlimited resources, who has every lawyer, every great lawyer on their side. I have one lawyer and very little bit of money. So defending yourself when the Department of Justice comes down on you is really difficult and really tough.
I am pretty sure, and I want to believe that the Bitcoin community is going to stand behind you guys and support you, and financially and campaign wise. I don't think this is going to go anywhere until this is resolved, because we all understand the importance of this case. I just want to say that when I was in Nashville, when was it, a year and a half ago, at the Bitcoin conference 2024, Trump spoke there, and I think it was clear to everyone that he understands the electoral power of the Bitcoin community, starting from this event onwards, maybe a little bit before that too. But then there's no doubt that the Bitcoin community in the United States helped him tremendously get over the line and win the elections. There were very powerful people, both in quantity and in quality, that were behind the scenes pushing people to vote for him. Even people I know personally, again, I'm not an American citizen, but I know of people that haven't been voting for years, and they came to vote just because they wanted to see legislation around Bitcoin becoming more favorable and ending Operation Choke Point 2.0, etc.
And
And it
freeing Ross.
happened, and he got in, and yes, he also kept the promise of releasing Ross. But the Bitcoin community is very vigilant. It's a don't trust, verify community. It's a community of critical thinkers. It's a community of people who are vetting you based on your actions, not on your words. And so I think that if the Trump administration keeps paying attention to this electoral power and keeps honoring and respecting the word that he has given to that community, I think that is going to help him once again at the midterms. And I think that this shouldn't be overlooked. This is a very strong influence and power that this community has. And I think everyone needs to remember that, because this community, if there is one thing that I understand since I've joined this amazing community, is how powerful it is, especially when something goes wrong. The honey badgers will not stop.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I think that's true. And I think the president knows that that's true, right? I think the president is aware of what a strong contingent the Bitcoin community can be when they're not fighting each other and they unite together over a common thing. It's a pretty strong community.
Absolutely. And now, just before we have a few more minutes before we have to end, so I really want to ask you, and pardon my ignorance, would you have limited communication channels from prison? In case you do go in 3 days, how can people continue supporting you when you're there? How can we communicate with you?
Yeah. So the most reliable way of the public communicating with me while I'm in prison would be through a letter, a written letter that's sent to me at the prison.
Okay.
And my address will be posted on billandkeonne.org, and
Okay.
so will Bill's address. That's the most reliable way. There are some people that I will be able to do like an electronic mail with. So, for example, my wife, I will be able to email her
Okay.
through a special prison email system. It's not like normal email.
Uh-huh.
But for the majority of people who would like to get in contact with me, it's the old-fashioned, what we call snail mail. Where you write on a piece of paper, put it in an envelope, put a stamp on it, and send it to the prison. Is the best way to do it. I'll respond to every letter I get. It will take a little bit of time because you can only respond to like 5 a day based on the labels that you can print out in prison. But I'll respond to everyone who decides to write me. I would appreciate that greatly for anyone who does. And I'll also be communicating with my wife, who she will have access to my Twitter account, my ex account,
Yes.
and
Yes.
she'll be able to post on my behalf. So if I
Great.
want to say something to the world, that's keep following my ex account because that's where it will be posted.
Excellent. So we're going, I mean, it's not excellent, but you know what I mean. Like we're going back to snail mail and we're getting some periodic updates from you on X. Super important. And thank you for saying that. We're going to send you letters. I'm going to make sure that we do. What are the next actions you'd call our listeners to take?
Yeah, I think the best thing that you can do right now still is signing the petition, sharing the petition, keep posting about this on X and other social media. Use the Pardon Samurai hashtag. All of these things increase visibility, increase pressure, and gets the word out. And all of that is so important when you're trying to compete for everyone's attention on the president. When he sees a group of people, even if it's not the largest group, it's a group of people who are fanatical about this and are talking about this and sharing about this. So please sign the petition. That's really the most important thing. If you decide you've heard my story and you want to donate, don't donate on change.org. That doesn't go to Bill or me. It goes to change.org. Go to billandkeonne.org, click on donate, and go to the Give, Send, Go. That will go directly half to my wife, Lauren, and half to Bill's wife, Sabrina, to help them manage while both of their husbands are in federal prison.
Super important what you just said. Don't donate on the change.org or change.com. Donate on billandkeonne.org. Okay. I want to finish with a quote from a follower on X that said something so true. So I just quoted this. This case is a test for financial freedom and open source development. A pardon would send a strong message. And that's what I want to end with. We need this pardon. It has a direct implication on your life, Keonne, on Bill's life, on your family's lives, but it has indirect implications on all of our lives. So a pardon will send a super strong message around the world. What do you say?
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I mean, obviously for myself, I agree, but I think broader, you're absolutely right. Look, the power of the president or the executive to issue pardons is exclusively meant to limit the damage that an unfair prosecution and an unfair judicial proceeding can do on a person. When the president sees an injustice, the executive branch sees an injustice, he has the power to undo that injustice, right? There's very little he can do in the judicial branch due to the separation of powers. But what he can do is when he sees the judicial branch got it wrong, when innocent people are being persecuted or going to prison, he has the power to change it. And that's an incredibly powerful thing he can do. And it would send a serious message that the executive branch of this country is pro crypto, pro innovation, and pro privacy. And he said that at that Bitcoin 2024, that he was against the CBDC, against surveillance. He said that. And this is a way to show that, it's more than just words, it's action. And I hope that he takes that and does what I think is the right thing.
Amen, Keonne, amen. I am sending you a big hug and a big prayer from here, and we're going to keep being on your case. We're going to hold the light and the torch while you're there, and we're not going to stop doing that because you're amazing, and this is an amazing case for all of us. So thank you so much for taking the time. I really appreciate it.
I really appreciate you inviting me, letting me tell my story. This is one of the last ones I'm doing, and I think it's a great one to do. I hope your listeners learned about this, and care enough to make some noise and to say this is not justice, and the president has something he can do about it.
Absolutely. Please share this video if you're watching this on Rumble or on X or maybe even on YouTube. Please share this everywhere you can, and please go to billandkeonne.org to sign the petition and to give your financial support. Keonne, thank you so much. Have a great day, the rest of your day.
Bye. Thank you very much.
Ciao. Thanks for being with us. Please take a minute to give this episode a like, a comment, and subscribe or follow. And please share it with your friends so they can also get value and choose to take some positive action in their lives. Till next time.